Hello, all. Welcome, CJP's, the Chicago Justice Show's um, special. We do this every third Thursday now, stream of the Chicago Police Board. Um, Monthly community, I guess they're called the community meetings, monthly public meetings. Um, where a little business is taken care of. They usually they listen to community concerns such as it is, even though they have no power to really do anything about those concerns. So it would be nice if our mayor um, and the city council moved on the community council that has now been in April will be Mayor Lightfoot's the second anniversary. I think it was in April, and far from her promise of passing that as her far from her promise as candidate Lightfoot to getting the community council, community commission, however you phrase it, passed in the first 100 days. We are on 365 plus. We're probably on around 550, 600. Really sad, maybe even more than that it hasn't passed. And what we had a development just yesterday, which is the city council's public safety committee, organized by Alderman Talafario, was supposed to have a meeting on Friday to get a vote. I think what they thought was going to be a final vote on whether or not they were going to go with the GAPA, Grassroots Alliance for Police Accountability's version of the community council, which is more advisory but had some powers to vote and press for the mayor's press for the superintendent of the police department's termination. But also what they did is that commission is supposed to take these meetings away, these monthly meetings away from the Chicago Police Board. And they're supposed to hold them, listen to concerns, and then have the power to force answers to the community concerns from the police department, from the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, or COPA. You'll hear them tonight mentioned, I'm sure, from the Chicago Police Board, from the Deputy Inspector General for Public Safety, even from the law department, I believe, about litigation costs, civil litigation costs. That commission, if it had been, if Mayor Lightfoot would have lived up to her campaign promises, we would have had this commission 400 or 500 days ago. Unfortunately, it just hasn't happened. What happened this week is this Friday, they were supposed to have this meeting. Mayor Lightfoot called Alderman Talafario, and at least from my sources, asked him to delay the meeting because they have, as was promised by her and her group, her staff, I should say, is that some months ago the mayor said they were going to be filing an alternative one and basically what it does is it diminishes the power. It's not, there are two versions. There's the GAPA version, then there's a version called CPAC, which I know it's some civilian commission. I don't remember exactly what CPAC stands for at the moment. CPAC has basically no chance of passing, at least as far as I know. GAPA has a chance, but the mayor is going to come up with even a softer version of the GAPA version. And GAPA has been weakened significantly just from when it was introduced or talked about the summer of 16, when the summer following the release of the Laquan McDonald murder tape. Myself, as part of the Chicago Coalition for Police Accountability, many other organizations came together and pushed for the creation of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, the elimination of the Independent Police Review Authority, which is going to be replaced by COPA, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, but also the creation of the Deputy Public Safety Inspector General's Office. That was 2/3 of what we were originally pushing. The third that came from organizations that would then become GAPA was this community commission. And Rom tried to introduce one and pass one that was very weak. Those groups asked Rom to stall that or pause that, I guess is the right way to say it, so that they could go into their communities and find out what people in their communities wanted and then draft a new one. That may have been a mistake now that we're, 5 years down the road from that? 4.5 years from down the road from that proved to be a mistake because we don't have GAPA, we don't have CPAC passed, and from the time that Ron was looking to pass it, uh, and now it is significantly weakened. From what the communities wanted, that is significantly weakened. And what has happened is now Mayor Lightfoot is going to introduce something even weaker. Mayor Lightfoot, I think, candidate Lightfoot would be very upset with Mayor Lightfoot. She's backed away this week from the last couple of weeks from a elected school board that she championed and crazy on the trail, but now says no way. She's backing away from any kind of community commission has any power. If this community commission can hear concerns from the public but can't do anything to enforce them or force answers or push to get the superintendent fired if they're not living up to what the community wants, I don't see the reason for having it. I think they should put it up for a vote, and then every alderman should be primaried. Every alderman that votes against it should be a target to push them out. But Mayor Lightfoot, I don't think wants to take even the remotest, slightest chance of having anything with any kind of teeth or power passed. It's amazing, I guess. It's the corruption of it's the power that must corrupt, because candidate Lightfoot would really be disgusted with what she's doing. So, we'll see where that goes. I don't have any faith. No one has seen this weekend version that we know of. There may have been some secret meetings with the GAPA people or CPAC people, although I think we would have heard of them, that have seen this. But there's so much going on behind closed doors. There's no way to know what anything that's going on with GAPA, with CPAC. I don't know why the city of Chicago can't have this commission, but there certainly seems to be a reason. So we're waiting for the police board meeting to start. As we do, I'm going to go over a couple other things with the Chicago Justice Project. Every Wednesday night, we're meeting with the CJP Nation. It happens 7 o'clock Central Time via Zoom. You get involved through group crowdsourced research projects. You can get involved being a social media ambassador for us and our mission. You can get involved with social activism. We really want to start engaging people and using social media to push our public officials. We have ongoing lawsuits currently against the state's attorney, which is lawsuit number 2 in 4 years. Candidate Fox said she settled it. They basically broke the settlement agreement right away. We have waited. We have tried to send in more FOIA requests and tried to get updates to the data they gave us. They have refused. So what's happened? We have to sue them again. We have an ongoing lawsuit that is now, I shouldn't say 3 years. It's been going on for 3 years against the Chicago Police Department. They just refuse to give up any data without a humongous fight. What kind of money are the state's attorney and the police department paying and spending to defend our suits? So get involved. You can email us at info@chicagojustice.org. It looks like our meeting has started. I think we're having an issue with the volume, though, because I can't hear it. All right, there's no audio on the stream. Well, all right, and now the stream is frozen. Maybe the weather is getting into it. We'll see what comes. It is Superintendent Brown, who for a while there had us blocked on Twitter, which I thought was pretty funny. These meetings, I've seen them. I've been going to them for years and years. Literally 25 years. And they can last anywhere from 10 minutes. I think the last stream we did was an hour and a half or 2 hours. So you never know what you're going to get out of these. Wow, that's interesting. I wonder what that is on the right there, if that's like he's reading off a teleprompter. Oh, they just went off. But it looked like he was. All right, hopefully we get the volume
Fine.
going. Oh, here we go.
It's not a self-graded test, so compliance percentages will be given out by the monitor here sometime in March. But our expectation is we at least wanted to turn in the homework. The first two reporting periods, there was a lack of seriousness, in my opinion. This third reporting period started as I started the job back in April, and I wanted to ensure not that we got the grade that we wanted, but we at least turned in the homework so that we could have a best chance at getting compliance. And so soon to come, the monitor will relay to the public our compliance percentage with hopes, in our opinion, that we do much better than we did in the first two reporting periods, and that we're making significant progress for our compliance on the consent decree. And finally, it's always front of mind as it relates to crime for CPD.
And anyone on
With
any of
that
the
said,
platforms that you're
carjackings
watching
continue to
this,
be an issue in our city.
comment, ask
Primarily, our
questions. I'm
young
happy to include
people
them in the stream.
have been the offenders that we've captured. So far, since January 1st, Chicago police officers have arrested over 200 people for carjacking offenses in this city since January 1st. Over 60% of that total number are juveniles who are joyriding and very dangerously, wielding guns about, threatening people. As you know, and I just don't need to say this redundantly, the criminal justice system has been open in pieces. The piece that's closed and has been closed since March are jury trials. So our criminal courts have not had jury trials, both in the juvenile system and the adult system, since last March. We are hearing that the courts will open back up next month, but likely have a backlog on their dockets. So
the backlog is going to be huge.
Anticipating the criminal justice system coming back to its normal capacity, because the leverage of change of behavior is about convicting people who are rendered guilty by a jury. And so, again, CPD is the arresting party, but we're not judge, juror, or jailer. So there's a lot of pieces missing, and it's had a significant impact on our crime. I'd just like to close with recognizing the hard work and dedication of Chicago police officers. We're not perfect. We want to hold ourselves accountable. We're committed to reform, but we're here to serve this city to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Edie Copa, would you like to give an oral report?
Yes, appreciate this opportunity, President Foreman. Thank you for this opportunity to address, obviously, all of those around the city of Chicago. Specifically regarding COPA, we, under ordinance, we are required to post our annual report. And so we have posted that report as recent as February 16th to our website. Definitely invite those that are listening to take an opportunity to visit our website and read that report. We've also posted a link on our social media, Twitter and Facebook pages as well. But I just want to lift up a couple of highlights. One, 2020 presented unique circumstances and challenges that really tested our agency and moved us into uncharted territory. The sudden shift in agency operations to remain safe and of service during COVID-19 pandemic, the civil unrest as a result of the death of George Floyd and its aftermath really demonstrated in 2020 COPA's resilience and really gave us great confidence in our agency and its future stability. We have remained focused, mission focused, become more innovative, and are able to do more. We're ever committed to delivering the civilian oversight to the people of this city that they desperately deserve. And so although it was unique circumstances that we faced, COPA still delivered on a number of items that I just want to lift up today. But again, this is in our full report. One, transparency is at the forefront, obviously, of what we do, and we know how important it is to everyone around the city of Chicago, especially when we are investigating allegations of police misconduct or officer-involved shootings. There were nearly 40 transparency cases that we released to the public via our website. And that just in those nearly 40 alone, that was over 575 materials regarding use of deadly force incidents or incidents that resulted in fatality. So those are obviously body-worn camera, third-party camera, OEMC 911 calls, transmissions, as well as police reports. So we released nearly over 500, right at 575 for the year of 2020. 54% of those that we are required to release under the city's video release policy, which is 60 days after an incident. 54% of those we are able to release before the 60-day mark. So we're very proud of that. 23% of the officer-involved shooting
that flies in the face of the
incidents that we
Inspector General's
investigated
office report. So I would doubt those numbers are actually right.
In 2020, that was the highest in the last 5 years. I'll also mention that in 2020, we launched what's called the Policy Review and Analysis Division. That's a new division within COPA, and it issued its first communication to the police department, providing prompt feedback to their response to the summer protests, noting common themes uncovered during the conduct of our investigations and highlighting operational risks and deficiencies for the purpose of improving CPD's response to protests and or mass gatherings in the future. Also, just want to lift up that we had to move many of our engagements, as I'm sure many groups had to do, from in-person to virtual, but it did not stop our mission focus and
they're still incredibly
deliberate
slow
approach to
in
engaging
or out
the
of
community.
pandemic.
We conducted nearly 70 presentations in 18 police districts, impacting nearly 5,000 people. As further of our commitment to making sure that we're getting information out to the public, we put out nearly 40 press releases updating the general public on investigations, nearly 300 social media posts,
press releases they send.
obviously sharing important information regarding investigations and processes there as well. In 2020, we received 5,690 complaints and notifications, which is a 6% increase over 2019 and 17% if we're looking all the way back to 2016. The amount of complaints and notifications that we received in 2020 was more than we had received in the last 5 years, which is interesting, seeing that it was a pandemic. Those complaints nevertheless continue to flow in. The most common complaint allegation was Fourth Amendment and improper search and seizure. That made up about 50% of the allegations, followed by excessive force, which made up about 25% of the allegations in 2020. And I'll just close out with these last few. COPA recommended more separation for officers involved shootings in 2020 than any of the last 5 years. We concluded 26 officer involved shooting cases in 2020 alone. And of the 1,519 concluded investigations in 2020, 51% or 780 were completed within 6 months, and 30% or 451 were completed in 6 to 12 months. So overall, 54% of the investigations completed with findings were concluded within 18 months, and that's a 45% increase over 2019. And then lastly, overall, 81% of the closed cases were concluded in less than 1 year, a significant increase to 2019.
I don't think those
so appreciate
numbers
this
are really
opportunity to share
legitimate.
information again.
There's some funkiness in there. They're still taking a really long time for a lot of cases. 18 months is ridiculous.
Can you
That
please
isn't a
provide
success.
the website address, please?
Yes, it is chicagocopa.org, chicagocopa, COPA.org, and it will be found under our publications page. There is an annual reports section found there.
Thank you very much. At the police board meetings for the last few months, we've been trying to use this opportunity to make sure that members of the public got an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the processes that we're going through in terms of police accountability. And so next speaker, we have Angie Weiss-Gamel, the mayor's senior advisor for public safety, who's joining us this evening to discuss the mayor's executive order on obtaining records related to complaints of alleged police misconduct.
Evening,
I don't know why
everyone.
she's here.
Thanks for having me. I'm Angie
They
Weiss
do nothing in
I
this
serve as
job.
Senior Advisor for Public Safety in Mayor Lightfoot's office. Thank you for having me here this evening. I wanted to provide just a little bit of information about Executive Order 2021-1, which
Oh,
was
God.
issued on February 5th.
Yeah.
This order is entitled Access to Information Regarding Alleged Police Misconduct. So this executive order is one of the many measures that the city is considering in response to the Anjanette Young incident.
This is
Pursuant to
total
order,
PR,
individuals
people.
who have
Total
filed a
PR.
complaint with COPA alleging that they are the subject of police misconduct will be provided access to certain materials. So the first thing to know is what sort of materials are covered by this order. It covers body-worn camera or dash camera footage or audio, so video or audio, as well as initial police reports. Requests for access to those materials can be made through written requests to COPA, and materials
only
will be
initial
released
police
within
reports?
30 days of when the request is received. Those materials will be released to the complainant via a secure web portal. Either the complainant themselves can make the request, their attorney can make the request, or if the complainant is a minor, their parent or guardian can make the request on their behalf. One final thing to note about this is that the order does not apply to incidents that are already covered by the city's existing video
So there
release
can't be a
policy.
shooting
That
case.
video release policy covers specific use of force incidents, and that policy is also under review by the city. It will be going through a community engagement process to solicit input for how to improve and update that
So
policy.
if you
And
get
so,
shot, you can't get the
those
video in
incidents are
60.
sort of
You have to
covered
wait 60
under
days.
a different policy
If
and
they-
therefore not subject to this executive order.
Oh, that's
But
just
it is
spin and
our,
BS. Oh my God,
intention that
they're
this
just
order
lying.
provide, important
Lying,
materials
lying.
to
So if a
complainants,
cop yells at you, you
and
can get the
that this
video and the audio.
provides a
He
level of
shoots you, you
transparency
can't get
and
the video audio. You got to wait
accountability that
double
was
the time.
previously lacking.
Oh my God, that is
Those
so
are the nuts and
horrible.
bolts about the executive order. Thanks.
That
All right,
is
thank you very
awful.
much for joining us.
Oh,
Our next speaker,
so
many
typical
people probably know
Chicago
already,
business as usual.
Arnie Duncan. I won't go through his
Oh my
his
God, why is
background,
Arnie? He was
his
almost on our show
resume,
2 weeks ago.
but,
Why is he
in
talking?
doing the research,
He has nothing to do with
Arnie's
police
one of the
accountability
co-founders
whatsoever.
Of Chicago Cred.
Creed.
I've heard the name Chicago Cred a lot, but this was the first time that I looked up to see what did Cred stand for. Create Real Economic Destiny.
He has nothing to do with police
This is an
accountability
organization that
whatsoever.
works with community leaders.
We're going to talk to him about their
community
on-the-street work, but it has nothing to do with the
organizations,
police
young men and
board.
women to radically
How about we talk about
reduce,
police misconduct and what the
violence.
police
So
board's
we thought
actually
that it would be
doing?
a good opportunity for Arnie to come present some of the work that you're working on, and then we thought it would be a good opportunity to let the board or other members on the
Oh my God.
from CPD or COPA to maybe ask a couple of questions.
Is this like, are they just trying to distract people?
Thank you so much. You got any questions for me, or just want me to give a little?
I don't
how
get
about,
it.
How about a little introduction? What is some of the work that Chicago Cred is doing?
He doesn't know what he's doing
Sure,
here
I'll be
either.
very, very brief and much rather have a conversation. So for all of us, this work is real personal. For myself, starting to lose friends to gun violence as a teen. And then during my time leading the Chicago public schools before our family moved to DC, lots I'm proud of, happy to talk about successes, but on my watch, during my 7.5 years, on average, we had a child, a student killed every 2 weeks due to gun violence. It was just a staggering rate of loss. And going to those funerals, going to homes, going to classrooms. There's an empty
What does this have
desk.
to do with police
That was
accountability?
by far the hardest part of my job. Nothing else.
If anyone
came
has
close.
it, leave me
And
a
I
comment
don't
and let me
think-
know. I don't have a
know
clue.
We as adults, we as educators, we as leaders, whatever we want to call ourselves, we fail to keep our kids on the South and West Side safe and free of fear and free of trauma. And we moved to DC in 2009, very naively. I thought things couldn't get any worse in Chicago. I thought we were rock bottom. And then for a whole host of reasons, things got a lot worse in those 7 years we were away. So coming home, Chicago's, like you, Chicago's given me every opportunity educationally, athletically, socially, culturally. This felt like the crisis facing the city. I have to say we're motivated by our successes, but we're haunted by our failures. I truly felt that we had failed to do a good job. here.
Emerson
So
Collective.
in
I've never
that,
heard of
just,
that. I don't know what they're
my
doing with
epiphany,
that.
which
But
shows how not smart I am, was that if you want to stop shooting, you have to work with the shooters. And quite honestly, I didn't feel there were enough people working with the young men and women, but predominantly men who were caught in these cycles of violence. So we started about a little more than 4 years ago with 30 guys in Roseland. We try and work with the young men, most likely shoot and be shot, which all of you on this call know the profile is basically the same person, it's often literally the same person. And there are 5 pillars to our work. We have a street outreach team that has what we call LTO, license to operate.
Wouldn't it be nice if the police board just like talked about their decisions and police misconduct cases?
We have 4 things. We have a clinical team.
I mean, it's an interesting topic. It just should not be here.
This is not post anything. This is present. This is current. This is our man's entire life. So helping our men heal. We say, hurt people, but heal people, help to heal themselves and their families and the communities. And so that's a hugely important part.
Oh, and we'll be suing the police board in
life coaches
this spring also for FOIA violations.
And unfortunately, many of our life coaches candidly committed homicide at some point, not all, have spent a lot of time away from the community, but have come back dedicated to giving back and trying to be father figures, in some cases because they weren't able to father their own children. And we see all the time that experience can be the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be your own experience. You can learn from the experience of others and try and speed up those cycles of learning and not replicate some of those mistakes. We have an education team. We've had lots and lots of guys get high school diplomas. We have a small set in college now. That's been really fun. And then we have a jobs team. And our whole goal, again, is to move our men from the illegal economy, which here in Chicago almost always leads to violence,
really never heard of
to
this
the legal
place.
economy. And guys work with
We
us
talked to
for
him about coming on our show to talk about Chicago cred.
Employers in hospitality, culinary, construction, hotel management. We have 2 guys working in law firms downtown, which is amazing. We have 1 guy working at Deloitte. And just like all of us on this call, they have different interests, different passions, and just giving them a chance to I would say these are men, not boys. They're going to eat. They're going to have a roof over their head. They're going to feed their children. And it's really up to us which side of the street it's going to be on. The final 3 things I'll say is that people often say it's great you're giving people a second chance. I think in many cases we're giving them a first chance. That every institution in their lives, family, school, churches, community, failed them. And the one organization that was there when everybody else was absent were the street organizations. And giving them a chance to make a rational choice to walk away from that. No one's mandated to work with us. There are no court orders. There's no probation officers. And we have a waiting list in every single neighborhood. Secondly, and I really believe this to my heart, that I really believe our men are, they're the solution. They're not the problem. We have to walk with them. We have to learn from them. I got a million, crazy stories, but to see the transformation, it's not linear. It's not overnight.
He's not wrong. It's just some police accountability.
Unbelievable heartbreaks.
Unbelievable. What is he doing here?
Killed too many. But to see what's possible when given love and an opportunity and a chance to do something different has been pretty remarkable. And then the final thing I'll say is that first 3 years we have 2 metrics: homicides and shootings. Our scorecard's real simple. First 3 years across the city, we saw 10% or more, double-digit reductions in both. And as everyone on this call knows, 2020 was a devastating.
That was kind of a BS stat because it was coming off a really high year. It had nowhere to go pretty much but down.
Almost all the gains from the previous 3 years. Over 4,000 people shot, almost 800 killed. Just a devastating year, and none of us are doing enough. We're all failing. We have to do more. But in a really dark time, the community where we started, and have worked the longest and worked with the most men, more than 300 in Roseland. Roseland, of the 15 violent neighborhoods, was actually much safer than others. And let me be clear, the violence there was still too high. But the fact that where the city was up 30%, the Roseland was significantly less than that. Really, in a terrible year, gave me, frankly, a lot of hope that if you touch enough guys, if you scale, if you're working with enough of the groups, we put in place non-aggression agreements and peace treaties between the groups. We know how hyper-localized this violence is, that you have a real chance to do something different. And so our goal is to try and with partners across the city to scale this work to the other 14 most violent neighborhoods. And it's really about reimagining public safety. Police have an extraordinarily important role to play. We have amazing partnerships.
Really interesting work. Switch way to fast forward
button. I have so much respect for Superintendent Brown. But police can't do this by themselves. We can't arrest our way out of this. We can't incarcerate our way out of this. I would love to see police.
That's all we try to do, though, is arrest our way out of the things.
Don't need to call the police. If there's a drug addict, don't need to call the police. Mentally ill, don't need to call the police. We can have the police focus on that hardcore violence and solve more of these cases, and then have other community groups and nonprofits and others step up in those other spaces. We have to set the police up for success. We have to set the community up for success. And I just think we continue to do the same things and not get the kind of results we need. Final thing I'll say is that we haven't been below 400 homicides as a city since 1965. I was born in 1964. The fact that we are so much higher than New York and LA is just untenable to me. I don't think they're smarter than us, but they have employed different strategies. They've done different things. And we have to do everything we can to get below
not
that
talking about
55,
economics.
56
Chicago
year
lost
low.
more industrial
And then
jobs
just to
than
get
both
on
those
par
cities.
with New York
Not
and
per
LA,
capita,
we have to
total,
then
just
start
raw
getting down
numbers.
to 100, 150 homicides a year. So we have a hell of a long
You're not going
way
to do that
go.
without massive
And I just think
economic
we have to
changes
work
of the city.
differently, smarter, more creatively, take some risks, more collaboratively, because if we continue to do what we've always done, we're going to continue to get the results we've had that aren't fair to anybody, but particularly not to our kids on the South and West Side.
Thank you. Board, any questions?
Hey, Arnie, it's Matt Crowell. I have a question about scaling because you've got such a great program, and God bless you and everybody you work with for doing it. But what is it that you need in order to scale it in a way that would probably not satisfy you, but make you at least feel
What
better
does this
about
have to do with police misconduct? Can we get on what you're supposed to be talking about?
We don't have all the answers. We're making huge mistakes every single day. This work does nothing if it doesn't humble you. I say it every day. We're co-designing with our men, and we test everything. When things are working, they tell us when things aren't working. They're not shy, and so there's no manual playbook. Every neighborhood's different. In Roseland, unfortunately, you talked about the carjackings earlier. I won't use the name of the group, but there's a group of young guys that are creating a lot of havoc, and we're bringing them in and having to do some things different. But we're spending privately about a little more than $10 million a year in Roseland to do all this work. And to be clear, we don't want to scale CRED. I'll be very clear about this. We have amazing partners in North Lawndale, in East Garfield Park, across the city in Englewood. We just want to, get more folks able to do this work. We think those different components of the work, the trauma, the clinical services, that support, the life coaches, the jobs piece, the education, the outreach. We think those pillars are really important. And obviously, every neighborhood is Roseland's smaller than in Austin, which is larger geographically, larger in terms of numbers of folks. But let's just say these are very, very, very rough numbers, Matt. But let's say it's somewhere between $10 and $20 million per year per neighborhood. Call it 15 neighborhoods. What does that take? And it's a significant investment. And I always want to do this from the heart first. That what we've done to our kids isn't fair, but the economic cost of this to our city, as everyone knows, is devastating. And Bain's been working on a pro bono study, which I'll be able to share.
Yes, you're talking about $300 or $400 million by his numbers.
If we can make our city and our community safer. We know we've had a reverse migration of the Black middle class out of Chicago back down south, often because they're scared their young boys are going to be shot. That depopulation hurts the tax base, it hurts the schools. You get this vicious cycle of everything closing. And we have to create communities where people feel safe to raise their families and raise their sons. So if we were to scale, very, very rough number, 200 million a year. And, we're doing a lot of this philanthropically. The city is doing more and more, which is fantastic. But we need, the county, the state.
I think on our show, too, the people that work with already told us
things coming together in a concentrated effort.
the city, Lightfoot doled up $36 million from a handful, 4 or 5 million that Rom was, but still you're talking
and more convinced that we could get to a much
7, 8 times more maybe, but still a drop in the bucket compared to what he really needs.
Yeah, thank you, Gian. First off, Arnie, thank you so much, and all the work that CRED does doesn't go unnoticed across the city. So one of my questions was what Matt just brought up was the feasibility and the realistic scaling this
Why are
program
police board
to
members
some of the
talking
other
about whether or not
neighborhoods?
to
But
scale up
you
and
answered
how
that.
much
Thank
and
you.
how
My
to
second
spend it?
question is,
What do these people have any
do you have an
qualifications to
average
do
age of
this?
the participants, and maybe give us all a kind of an idea of how young the youngest
I'm not lost
participants
about
are.
what is going
up
on
to,
here.
what you're seeing, the older individuals that are involved in the program, if you have some type of average age of the people who are involved.
Yeah, on the first question, again, and we're learning every day. So when we started with 30 guys in Roseland. We weren't trying to reduce violence in Roseland. 30 guys, are just a drop in the bucket. We were just trying to see, could we move them from where they were going, from shooting, being shot to something else, and learn from those experiences. As we progressed the past couple of years, while the individual transformation is obviously extraordinarily powerful and is critical to our work, for me, it's honestly insufficient. And we have to move to neighborhood violence suppression. And so what we've done in Rosen now, over the 4 years, we've now worked with about 310 guys. And part of the reason you're seeing some success is both the number of men we've touched, the number of groups that we've touched, and then the length of involvement with them and the trust that we've built and the non-aggression and peace treaties. That kind of stuff is so important. So for me, we have to start thinking as a city, not about this guy or this family, although that's part of the story, but what are we going to do in Englewood? What are we going to do in Garfield Park? What are we going to do in Austin? What are we going to do in West Humboldt Park to really reduce it? On the age thing, our average age is, our sweet spot is between 17 and 24. And we just looked at the data. That's just what the data for the city, those are the most likely to shoot and be shot. We definitely go older. We have guys 26, 29, 30, 31. We sort of it's sort of the tail off on the bell curve there. I will say, and we're starting to work with this new young group. We're trying to bring this entire group in who have been creating, frankly, a ton of mayhem and havoc out there. It actually breaks my heart. The youngest young guy in that group is 12. And we've worked with teens across the city through a Peacemakers program that was more preventative. But we've shifted our focus because these young guys and being out of school, we're seeing really, really tough things happening. And so this one particular group, about 20 guys, they have one guy 20, they have one guy 21, and everybody else is teens, and then we got one at 12. And so we just have to keep adjusting. We have a younger population in North Mondale that we're also working with. Unfortunately, as we know, some of those shooting are getting younger and younger. And so we don't ever put someone out because they're too young or too old.
This has been an age-old problem, but I don't know. Once again, why the hell these police board members are discussing this? What are they going to do?
And then work with what
they're supposed to decide decisions about whether or not to fire officers. What is this going to do?
It makes them really vulnerable if the ops are still coming after them. So you got to work with those groups and then with the opposition simultaneously to try and get us a sense of peace.
Don't get it at all.
Stand down.
Last question, Arnie.
Thank you.
This sounds like great work. Your program is definitely having an impact. I read some of the
we found a lot about what Arnie's doing, but not so much what the police board's doing and making decisions on what is going on here.
Part of the reason that we wanted you to come is because we're thinking about solutions. And so we read about some of the solutions. And at the same time, some of the things that you've written, perhaps
you're not in the solution business. You're in the solution business to stop police brutality and to fire officers. That's your job. What are you doing?
It couldn't be further from the truth.
This is so frustrating.
Police have a critical role to play. Police do extraordinary work.
They need to stop beating people
but I absolutely believe
and framing people and stealing from people.
We've seen that.
That's what police accountability is about, and that's what the police board's doing. I don't have any idea what this dog and pony show here is going on.
Other cities have given people a path.
They're stalling or something.
There's this myth that all these guys are getting rich on the streets. Almost no one's getting rich on the streets. And you know how the gang structure is broken down. Economies of scale are gone. I will tell you, too many anecdotes, but our worst shooter in our first group, the guy who was creating the most destruction and violence out in Rosen, terrorizing the community, he was making $80 a day. He was making 80. He walked me through his economics. He was making actually 120, but he had to pay one of his guys 40. So he was making $80 a day. So we employed him. We basically doubled his income. And so we have to give guys a reason to get off the streets. The police can't do that. The police don't. What are the police going to do with our 12-year-old or 14-year-old? That's just, there's nothing they can do. So
this would have been great on our show, not so much here. It's a waste of time.
The police often, frankly, tell us these are the guys. They refer people to us, people that they know are doing things that they can't catch or whatever. They send them to our program. Our first peace treaty that was put in place. The two groups went and actually knocked on a police woman's door, and it wasn't surprisingly, it was a police woman who lived in the neighborhood who had trust, and basically got her blessing to do that. And so we can't do our work without the leadership of individual officers and with commanders and with superintendents, deputy superintendents, chiefs, whatever it might be. That's hugely important.
So painful.
And again, it's not being anti-police to say that police can't solve this by themselves. It's not being anti-police to say that mass incarceration hasn't worked for the Black and brown community here in Chicago and across the country. Police have a critical role to play, but we have to narrow that role, and we all have to step up and hold ourselves accountable for solving
so
this
painful,
stuff.
painful.
And I'll say this all the time publicly. I'm not saying anything different here. You know, every time there's a homicide, you know, Superintendent Brown has to get up and, you know, answer the press. We need to be held accountable. We in the nonprofit side, the social service sector side, the faith-based community have to step up, and our CEOs have to step up. If they provided more jobs at the back end, that will speed up this transformation. I can't do what I'm doing if I don't have jobs at the back end to place guys in. And so we're all in this together. And so, you know, happy to, you know, we may disagree on some issues, we may debate it. I think that debate is healthy and honest, and we need to have that debate. Anyone who says that we're winning now as a city, I think is part of the problem. Well, we're not winning, we're losing. Last year
What
was
have we
horrific.
talked about?
January, we look at month
This
over month.
meeting has
January
been
was much
going
worse than last
40
January.
minutes,
Last January was
and
terrible.
we've had no
So
content
we got
about
a lot
what the
of hard
police
work to
board's
do,
doing
but
and been
we
up to,
cannot
their
do this
votes.
without the partnership
It's
and leadership and
unbelievable.
heroic work every single day of the police. And I'll just say personally, I have extraordinary respect for Superintendent Brown. He doesn't have to be here. This is your home, again. This is my home. He doesn't have to be here. He's here because he wants to make our city safer. We owe him a huge debt of gratitude.
He's here
Yes.
because he's getting
Thank you,
paid
Arnie.
well.
Really
That's what
appreciate
he's
the
here
work
for.
that you're
He didn't
doing.
care about Chicago
We have some
whatsoever.
other, one of the we wanted to
I'm sure he'd
highlight
like to make it
you and
safer,
some of
but
the
he
work
didn't come
that
to
you're doing,
Chicago
but we
because he
also
likes
have
it.
some other groups. There's a
Please,
group here.
what a joke.
They come every month. They've been coming for 3 or 4 years. From Chatham and Park Manor neighborhoods, and they get together as a community. They work very closely. I'll use this as an opportunity to share with Superintendent
I think
Brown
next
and
week,
your
maybe
team.
next month, we'll start a poll
Unsolicited, in the last month,
and
I've probably
see
received
at
6
what point,
messages
what minute
from
in the meeting,
residents,
how far
who
into
live
the
in
meeting they
third
actually
or
start
sixth
talking about
districts,
police board
and, I mean,
business.
just incredibly complimentary of the work that the police are doing with the community, working hand in hand. They even refer to those commanders as having superpower. So again, I think that when community works together,
Wow.
Arnie, I'll make some
You got to love the
introductions,
Police
and then we
Accountability
start to work
Agency
well
talking about the police
with
department
CPD
having
and making sure that we
superpowers.
all are working towards that goal of improving the city. That's
What
really where we're
a
going to start to see the
crock of
results.
crap.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Hola.
Last very quick thing to be clear is we're a tiny,
No,
tiny
please
part
stop.
of this solution. We have amazing partners that we work with across the city. 2/3 of our budget goes to fund other partners doing this work in other neighborhoods. And so we all have to be in this together.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Appreciate your time.
God,
Thank
Thanks for
you.
your
painful.
leadership.
They're not
All
leading
right.
anything. What are they leading? Can we get on
Next
what
up,
you're
we're gonna
doing
get
now?
Back to business now.
No
Report
way.
of the disciplinary actions taken by the
Holy
board during the
cow.
previous month have been made
41
available on
minutes into the
board's
meeting,
website.
and we're finally getting to the police
There
board,
is
what they
one
actually are supposed to do.
disciplinary matter on the agenda this evening, but I am going
One.
to get through a few additional things. As announced at previous meetings, to further implement the requirements of the consent decree and to make other changes to the process for handling disciplinary cases, proposed amendments to the board's rules of procedure have been drafted.
Well,
The
that's kind of hard to
amendments will
see.
consider.
Oh.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Share screen. I lost the amendments we will consider this evening include the following. New procedures for making sure that counsel for the superintendent and the accused officer have access to the officer's complete disciplinary file and have an opportunity to move for entry into the record of proceedings any relevant aspect of the disciplinary file as permitted by law and any applicable collective bargaining agreements. New procedures for making sure the board has completed information when the superintendent and the accused officer agree to settle a case and recommend a specific disciplinary action for the board's consideration.
That's what we're suing them
Procedures
about.
for
That
filing
very
case
thing.
material electronically, a listing of all of the items that make up the record of proceedings in a disciplinary case. Is there a motion to approve the draft of the amendments to the rules of procedure that have been posted on the board's website as a part of the agenda this evening?
I so move. This is Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are suing them for some of the
Anyone
things they're very
opposed?
talking about
Motion passes.
in the coming weeks.
Uh,
Hey, they did some police board business. Only took
At
43
last month's
minutes.
public meeting, the board approved amendments to the rule governing suspension of officers precluded from lawfully carrying a firearm. We have some additional minor changes to ensure that the amendments apply only to those officers who are not eligible to carry a firearm due to mental health reasons. Is there a motion to approve the draft of additional minor amendments to Article 8 of the Rules and Regulations of the Chicago Police Department that have been posted on the board's website as a part of the agenda for this meeting?
So move, Michael Eady.
Is there a second?
Second, Paula Wolf.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. The general orders and other directives issued by the superintendent during the previous months are posted on the police department's website. As we move to public comment section of the meeting, I will please remind everyone of the board's policy on participation at these meetings. We value your comments and questions on police-related matters, and we will treat you with courtesy and respect. We expect all members of the public to treat everyone at this meeting in a similar manner. Please note that personal attacks and
Strap
obscene
in.
language are strictly prohibited, and that
This
repeated
is-
violations
never
of the
know what's
board's
gonna happen in
policy
these
may
public
result in the
comment
violator
sections.
not being permitted
Sometimes
to
they're great,
participate in
sometimes
future board
they're
meetings. I will now call upon
out
members
there.
of the public who signed up in advance to speak. Each speaker will be unmuted after I call his or her name. And Max, I'm going to ask you to call the speakers, please.
Okay, I'll do that. The first speaker is O'Neill Johnson. And again, it's *6 to unmute. O'Neill Johnson.
Okay, we'll go to the next speaker.
Okay, the next speaker is Rebecca Vanderkloot.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Good
Great.
evening.
Hi, thanks for giving me a moment. As you mentioned, my name's Rebecca. I've lived in the heart of Chicago neighborhood on 24th Street between Western and Oakley for 12 years. I launched my business here. I know all my neighbors. This is my community. On April 1st of last year, my husband and two of our best friends went for a walk to Speedway to grab some snacks, a short walk we've made almost every day for 12 years. Less than a block away from my house, they were brutally shot at by gang members. All three of them were hit, and one of the young men, Laszlo Lyons, lost his life at the age of 25. Not that it matters at all, but they were doing absolutely nothing wrong. They were just taking a walk. Our lives were shattered that day. What has since followed has felt like a nonstop living nightmare. There's always been some gang activity in this neighborhood, but in the 12 years I have been a part of this community, it has never been like this. Our elderly neighbors have commented that it wasn't even this bad in the 70s. Literally every day, there's a shooting, a carjacking, or a stabbing. Every single day. Not just late at night, it is all hours of the day, including last Wednesday in the middle of a blizzard. The violence is nonstop between 18th and 24th. The bulk of the time, it occurs on 21st Street or 23rd, near the exact spot where these young men were shot. If the neighbors can all guesstimate where it might happen, why can't CPD? At least last spring, we saw squad cars driving the neighborhood every night. Now it seems like he's given up because now there's nothing. Where are the patrols? Where are the critical support programs that were referenced earlier on this call in my neighborhood? I don't want to hear that there's not enough money or resources available. It has been at least the same year-long gang war, and the violence just keeps getting worse. I shouldn't have to be afraid to go outside, to take a walk, to park my car, or to go to work. I am tired of the neighborhood having to fend for itself. Clearly, the current tactics are not working because the problem is getting exponentially worse. What are the steps that CPD are going to take? What partnerships will be formed? How is this board going to work to ensure my neighborhood is protected and served?
Superintendent?
First of all, condolences to the speaker on the loss of a friend's life on last April. And we take this very seriously. I would like to follow up with you and have our commander address these concerns immediately. And I think it's the purpose of this board opening it up for speakers that we can be held accountable for when we are not doing what's expected from our residents. So if you would, we would like to, we got the cross streets, but we want to be able to interact with you and address your concerns on an ongoing basis so that our commanders can be responsive. So if we can follow up in that way, and Chief of Patrol is on this Zoom meeting and hearing this, and we just want to be able to follow up with you with the speaker again through the police.
So we're not going to talk to you in public, is what that
Yes,
means.
I'll have Jasmine and Max ensure that you get the contact information.
Jasmine's still there. Max assistant. Interesting.
Next,
yeah, the police board does
yes.
nothing about violence. They do nothing about anything except police misconduct.
I made an error trying to adjust from screen to screen. We have a disciplinary case in front of us. Well, let's continue with the speakers while I continue to pull this up. Next, Max, if you can call the next speaker, please.
Yes, the next speaker is Antonio Lightfoot. And it's *6 to unmute yourself.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I urge every city official on this call to help put an end to the dangerous rhetoric that is constantly stemming from these calls. Last month, we heard residents flooded this meeting to complain about quote-unquote low-hanging fruit of soliciting and other nonviolent crimes, asking for more police to be sent to the street corners. We need to be talking about what really works. If we want to lower crime, it's directly related to poverty. I feel for the previous young lady who spoke about the death of her friend. And it is not surprising when the poverty in our neighborhoods continues to be increased. Chicago spends way too much money on police funding. Currently, 40% of our entire police, city budget goes to police. That is leaving our schools, health services, social services struggling. We got 13,000 police officers and only 4 people dedicated to help domestic violence workers. To top it off, Mayor Lightfoot just spent 68% of federal funding on police. It is getting out of control. What is up with this one-sided love affair with police? More police has never worked. Longer sentences have never worked. Our kids are out of school, and the federal dollars that we were used to save us is being spent on more police. I need y'all to be honest with y'all constituents. What we need to do is reallocate funds from the police budget to the communities that need them, and that lays at the power of this police board.
Thank you. Next speaker.
No comment whatsoever. Totally blew it off.
Thank you. Sorry about that. The next speaker is Jovan Gathings.
He was right, though. I mean, you're not gonna police your way out of this, as Arnie said. But all we do is police our way out of this.
Yes.
All right. How you all doing? So, I'm calling on behalf of the residents of Chicago, Illinois, and I am calling because last month during the police board meeting, there was a lot of calls taking place about what I consider low-level crimes. Some of those low-level crimes were non-violent crimes, soliciting, people driving without city stickers, license plates. And the issue with that is when we were asking for more police to be dispersed to street corners, I honestly believe that we need to be talking about evidence-based practices to end crime. So most people should know that crime is directly correlated with poverty, and the Chicago, the mayor has spent so much money.
Let's see if the police board answers, or if they
police,
just blow this off.
But that money should be reallocated to schools, parks, social services. A lot of those sectors are struggling, and because they are struggling,
they're devastated.
This will, increase crime. So more policing doesn't work, and longer sentences doesn't work. Our kids are out of school. As you all know, carjacking is up. there's still violent crime going on, and there's no resources. So what I think that needs to happen is we need to reallocate funding from the police budget to the communities that need them.
Let's
And
see
I
if
believe
anyone on the
that
police
would be a
board
way
comments.
to help solve a lot of
My
the
bet is
violence
no.
that is taking place, the carjackings that are taking place here in the city of Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take a pause from the speakers as I forgot to do a disciplinary case.
Ooh,
The
like
police
looking at
board
a
is
ceiling.
authorized
There
by
we
the
go.
Open Meetings Act has considered in a closed meeting one disciplinary case. The board will now take final action on this case.
If you want more
Regarding
information
case
on
number
police disciplinary cases, cpbinfocenter.org is our police
superintendent filed
board.
charges against
There it
police
is, our
officer
police board
Milton
transparency
Story,
website.
recommending that he be
You
discharged
can
from the Chicago
look at cases
Police
back to
Department for engaging in
1998 and
sexual
through
harassment.
today.
The superintendent subsequently moved to
cpbinfocenter.org.
withdraw these charges because Story resigned his position with CPD. Is there a motion to grant the superintendent's motion?
So moved, Paul Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
I will now call on members of the board for their votes. Wolf,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Edie,
Aye.
Flores,
Aye.
Montez,
Aye.
O'Malley,
Aye.
Sweeney,
Aye.
Zop,
Aye.
and I vote in
She's still
favor
on
of
the
the
board.
motion. Voting in favor are board members Wolf, Crowell, Edie, Flores, Montez, O'Malley, Sweeney.
They're just
Zop,
accepting
and
a
myself.
resignation. I mean,
The
this is
motion
all
passes
theater.
by a vote of
The guy
9
resigned.
to
There's
0.
nothing they can do to
The
him.
written order for this case will be posted on the board's website. We'll now go back to the speakers. Max, if you can call the next speaker.
The next speaker is Brad Redrick.
Excuse me.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, thank you. President Foreman, Superintendent Brown, and members of the board. I come from the neighborhood of Grand Crossing, attached to the 4th District. And I come again in the interest of the vacancy of community organizer being filled as soon as possible. The former organizer retired in November. Since then, the position has been vacant. The 4th District is a huge and very complex district. You know, it's multilingual. It probably needs 2 community organizers, but currently it has none. This is a very critical deficit. We had no organizer for a couple of years before, and it really has spelled a lot of problems for our area. Our block clubs and neighborhood advocates need some form of coordination or an organization. The officers in the district seem overwhelmed. It's not fair to them to have to flex into this position. So we ask for help in getting this critical deficit filled as soon as possible. We need it in the worst way. And, you know, we're on the ground seeing this deficit. It may be hard to see it from the police department side, but we do need, it is a non-police officer position that's very critically needed. And I thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Superintendent?
Yes, we made note of that from last month, and I gave direction to, as quick as we could, you know, solicit that and fill that vacancy. So continue to monitor how that process is going, and update the board when we are able to hire someone.
Thank you, Superintendent. Matt?
The next speaker is Jennifer Edwards.
Okay, I'm unmuted. You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We'd like to report on positive community activity in the 3rd and 6th districts this month. Here is a list of recent and upcoming activities in our districts. Friday, number 1, I'm sorry. I thought I heard someone.
Please continue.
Okay. Number 1, Friday, 1/22/21 on a frigid 21-degree day. The 3rd and the 6th districts participated with community members, tactical officers, commanders, and off-duty and an off-duty Cook County Sheriff Officer to combat bad business activities on an East 75th Street walkabout. Number 2, on 2/12/21, the 3rd District conducted a virtual event honoring our fallen brothers and sisters in blue for Black History Month. We also honored the first woman officer shot in the line of duty, Officer Dorrell Brandon, the deceased wife of our colleague, Matt Brandon. Number 3, get to know your beat officer. Virtual
I think that's Matt
introduction
Brandon
of
from the
officers on the
SCIU they were
various
just
3rd
talking about.
District beats and intro of the new District Communications Officer
I believe it's an
DCO
ex-cop,
project. Number
like
4,
CPD member.
every Saturday, beginning in February, 3rd District Tactical Team Community Engagement, Operation Safe Pump with community men members. Number 5, every Friday beginning in February, 3rd District Community and Police Together We Can partnership, in-person and virtual meeting to discuss area shootings, homicides, motor vehicle thefts, robberies, and vehicular hijackings. Upcoming, number 6, the community is doing a thank you for officers from the 6th District for shoveling for Black History Month event at a Black business, Afro Joe's Coffee Shop. And number 7, upcoming, a neighborhood housing service of Chicago is donating meals for seniors for the 3rd and 6th District officers to participate in delivering of prepaid frozen meals and wellness visits on alternating Thursdays on both sides of the Dan Ryan Expressway. We're very happy about what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And, again, I thank you for your commitment and your continued participation. Superintendent, I would love to see your command staff continue.
Yeah,
to work
because that's
with
what's
these
really
community
going to
members and as the other community
stop
members, we
violent
as the
crime.
board, we continue
These
to
communities
try
have
to make sure
marched
that
and
this,
done all the things
facilitation
possible
happens, and we
forever,
can
and very
continue
little
to
has
get the kind of
changed.
results that we're seeing, that the people in the community see and feel.
Notice how they didn't
and
comment
they
about the
feel
defunding
difference
and all.
being
They just
made.
blew
So
those
thank you
right
very
off.
much for your continued participation.
Thank you.
Max.
The next speaker is Nenad Markovich.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So, almost 30 years in law enforcement, retired a couple years back. The bill recently passed in our legislature is very, very troubling. I hear comments from citizens. I feel bad for from Ms. Vanderkloot, Rebecca, telling her story.
Here
her
we
friend
go.
was shot and 2 others.
Tell me why he's calling to the
killed
police
and 2
board,
others injured.
or zooming
This
into
is
the
only going
police
to get
board.
worse. If anybody out there doesn't know some of the components of this bill is awful. It allows
Whatever you do, don't hold the police accountable
anonymous
for anything.
complaints. If you get a case in criminal court, your accuser's there. You get to ask questions of them. In this
Anonymous
bill, one of the main
complaints.
components, and I feel bad for Culpa right now. Nah, I hate to say it. They're going to have quadruple the work. People can
They
call
are
from
gonna have
Arizona
quadruple
on
the
the phone and say that Officer X, Y, and Z, starting over this, that, and the other, did this. That is absolutely ridiculous. This bill was passed after an hour of handing it to the legislators, and they voted on it an hour later at 4:30 in the morning. How ridiculous is this? Law-abiding
What does he
citizens.
want the police
and
board
let
to
me tell you
do?
what, I spent a lot of time working the 11th district and in units and everywhere else, uptown, everywhere. And I had met some good people. Public housing, I worked for years. I met some great people. But the police are going to just drive by and collect their salary if they don't get backing from the citizens. It's time for that.
Yep.
Please, guys,
Because
you gotta
God
speak up.
knows,
The
police have
governor
not had
hasn't signed
backing
this
from
yet.
the public.
Maybe we can do some stoppage on this. LG Sims sponsored this. Get on the phone. Especially the people who need us the most are going to be affected by this. Be safe, citizens. Careful what you ask for.
Yep. Because you can see how well they're
Thank you.
keeping those neighbors on the
Next
south
speaker.
and west side safe.
The next speaker is Krista Noel.
Oh God, here we go again. I know, Krista.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Fine. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm have you seen the article by the Chicago Reader? And it said, have you seen these 51 women? And it's talking about the black women that they found in garbage cans and alleys and abandoned houses all over the city of Chicago. Have you read that one?
Yes, ma'am. I have.
You have? Okay. I'm just going to quote a paragraph. African Americans, at less than a third of Chicago's population, make up 66% of domestic violence victims and nearly 75% of the murders. Of the 5,000 murders in the city over the past decade, the Chicago Police Department has arrested a suspect in fewer than 1/3. According to the WBEZ website or analysis, the CPD solved homicides of black citizens at half the rate of those of whites. I'm going to also respond to a statement that was made by the superintendent of the Nightingale shooting, where I specifically said that this shooting, could have been prevented if we address domestic violence. The deadliest mass shootings are often preceded by violence at home. An analysis of 749 mass shootings over the past 6 years found that 60% were either domestic violence attacks or committed by men with a history of domestic violence. As I said, Nightingale had a history of domestic violence. It could have been prevented. He had been arrested for it. He could have been put into mandatory therapy and had mandatory psych vow. This could have been prevented.
I don't think therapy can be mandated. I might be wrong because I know you can't mandate someone in the drug
there
court.
There will be a full investigation to every single shooting that is alleged to have been made by Jason Nightingale.
Thank you, Ms. Noel. I'm not sure if that's a COPA issue or a superintendent issue. Well, Ms. Noel, we will for sure. I will make sure that I coordinate with the superintendent, and we make sure that the right person looks into this. Next speaker, Robert Moore. Robert Moore. Mr. Moore, if you can unmute yourself. Is it *6?
Okay, Mr. Foreman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, gotcha. Some confusion here. I was never notified my name was on the list, but this did get worked out. Mr. Superintendent Brown, have you received the proposed stipulations from Robert J. Moore to City of Chicago Police Deputy Department Superintendent David Brown of 01/21/21? I sent you an email. I wonder if you ever received those proposed stipulations.
Mr. Moore, I think my guess is that we're going to use a lot of your time asking questions.
Yeah, well, I need to know whether or not he's received these proposed stipulations that I sent on the 21st. Either that, or I need a new email address. I need to get questions presented to the superintendent, because the whole purpose of what I'm trying to do is to control the presentation of the state of mind of various public officials. So my question is, Mr. Superintendent, have you received a copy of those proposed stipulations or not?
No, I have not.
Okay, to what email address? Just tell me what your email address is, please, so I can send them to you immediately.
I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm trying.
Okay, send it to the police board, Mr. Foreman. Can you give me an email address to which I can send it so I can check this off that the superintendent has received these proposed stipulations?
If you go on our website, you can send an email to Max Caproni.
Okay, I'll send it. And then everyone, but Mr. Superintendent, I need a stipulation that if I don't get it bounced back, notice that it wasn't received by Max Caproni, that constitutes constructive delivery on you. Okay? Because moving forward, this country the world is in a disastrous condition. Okay, an absolute disaster. It's a free fall. There's no protection, non-counterfeit version of the rule of law that's left. With those people like Cleet Keeler, that swimming Olympic medalist, he's one of the citizens we can least afford to lose, and he's getting criminally prosecuted for 30 years. That was
Wow,
ridiculous. The whole election
he's a
was stolen.
QAnon
It's a massive
insurrectionist.
fraud. It's being imposed from the.
You knew it was coming.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
They love that. He
At
cut
this
him right
time,
off at
all
2
members
minutes
of
at the
the
end.
public who signed up to speak have been called. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Paula Wolf.
Second, Michael Eady.
All in favor, please say aye.
Wow, that was quick. They cut it off. Okay. I just want to note for an hour and 9-minute meeting, they spent 26 minutes. I got to write this down. On police board business. All of that was basically listening to the public yell at them or talk. It's amazing to me that it took an hour and 10 minutes and we got 26 minutes business. It could have been done in 25 minutes. So once again, if you're interested in actually finding information about their votes and what they do, cpbinfocenter.org will take you there. Also, every third Thursday, we're here streaming the police board starting March 1st. The CJP show moves from Wednesday during the day till Monday, Wednesday, Friday, streaming 5:30 Central Time. And so this coming Wednesday, though, we're still on the Wednesday schedule. Wednesday at noon Central, we got Joby Cates from Restore Justice Illinois talking about that horrible bill that the former CPD officer hates and needs to be overturned and not signed by the governor. It does contain massive reforms. And we'll be talking to Joby Cates from Restore Justice Illinois about how it impacts incarcerated people and formerly incarcerated people. There are some really big changes in there that we should all be happy or past, but obviously not all of us are happy. That's not a surprise. Getting ex-cops to call into the police board or get to the police board is pretty odd, but hey, it takes all kinds. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. We will see you again on Wednesday, the 24th, if I got the dates right, 12 to 1 with Joby Cates. Otherwise, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. Oh, and our YouTube channel. If you want to see this video and more videos, go to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much. We'll see you on Wednesday.